Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And now, the champion, fighting out of Los Angeles, California. This man is a movie snob with a background in fighting and a lifelong addiction to all things superhero related. Presenting the reigning, defending, undisputed host of the show, the Iron Cube.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is episode number 79 of the Iron Cube Fights Movies. This week, the team reviews Bumblebee, followed by movie, television, and video game news. I'm Kia, your host. With me on the show today are my co-hosts Emerson.
Hey, what's up?
And Everett.
Hey, what's going on?
So I'm a bit sick, so you're going to have to excuse my froggy voice. Immediately following this episode, we're going to record our 2018 awards. What are they called?
It's the end of the year awards ceremony.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to explain our rating system. On this show, we award what we've watched with a rating of win, draw, or loss. A win is something we would highly recommend, while a draw is something we didn't necessarily love, but recognize others may appreciate. A loss means we do not recommend the title. If you have not seen the review of the week and would like to avoid spoilers, check the show notes for the timestamp so you can still hear our news sections. All right, Emerson, why don't you go first? What's your rating for Bumblebee?
So I give it a draw. I'm saying this from someone who hates all the latest Transformer movies, and I walked into this fully expecting to want to claw my eyes out. It was better than I thought it was. It still wasn't what I would call an excellent film. I didn't necessarily enjoy it a ton, but it wasn't horrible, and I recognize that for a lot of people this might be something fun to see. So a draw.
Right. So Bumblebee is this is a Transformers film that's sort of like a prequel, but it's not a reboot, right?
No, it's like a spin-off prequel, I think. It doesn't really say if this is directly what happened before the...
I mean, it kind of feels like it's taking from both sides. Like, on one half, it's a reboot, because there's a lot of things different. But on the other side of that, it seems like it's a prequel, because there's a lot of things similar to the first Transformers movies.
It doesn't really... You don't need to have seen the other ones to understand what's happening here.
Not at all.
No.
So that to me is like a big sign of a reboot, especially if it's a prequel. Okay, Everett, what's your rating?
It's definitely a draw for me as well, because there were actually a lot of things in this movie that I enjoyed. But on the other side of that, there's definitely a lot of things that I did not like. So it's definitely split down the middle for me. But I would say very slightly the things that I enjoyed is slightly more than the things I did not enjoy. So it's just slightly a draw. Otherwise, it would have been a win.
All right, yeah, so this is a unanimous draw for me as well. I felt like the only real part of this film that I connected with was Haley Steinfeld talking about her father. And everything else was either sort of like physical comedy with a CGI character, which doesn't really do it for me, or just like over-the-top action, which was also okay if you like Transformers. I'm not a huge fan. I really like the original one. And this one definitely had some throwbacks to that type of style of film, especially with the kid in the car and all that. But ultimately, I think that this is a movie for people who just want to shut off their brains. So you just go in there and you have a fun experience at the theaters. It's not doing anything unique with Transformers. It's not pushing it forward in any way. Basically, all you can really say is they've just made another one that didn't suck ass.
Yeah.
And for some people, that could be considered a victory. For me, I recognize that it is progress in its own weird way, so it's a draw for me. Otherwise, I wasn't a huge fan.
Well, if we could jump into spoilers really quickly.
Yeah, let's do it.
So one of the issues I have with this is I feel like a lot of the weak points of this movie come from the people in the movie. Now, I know, Kia, you said you connected with what's her name, Haley
Yeah,
Steinfeld. Her
Steinfeld's
character name
like,
is Charlie.
character. But okay, here's the issue I have. A lot of the like points where it was focusing on the people, I was just really bored. Like her family, or like when John Cena was on screen, I just was like, what are you doing? Like in the military, it was stupid in a sense. I liked the action. I liked seeing what the Decepticons were doing. But after I saw this movie, I came home and I watched the original Transformers movie because I wanted to compare them. And what I found was the original Transformers movie, in my opinion, holds up significantly better in the Transformers and the military department. And it's similar in the civilian life department with Megan Fox and Shia LaBeouf. Like that's about equivalent to what we see from the like family's life that we look at.
Right.
But you know the military in the original Transformers, they took themselves very seriously. There was a lot of pains to make it look at least somewhat realistic, and honestly, I think in this movie the military is just played off kind of as a joke, and I think it may have been a budget issue, or it's the fact that they're trying to go away from Michael Bay's like big spectacle. But I think it was missing that in this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can agree with
it
that.
did sort of throw me when John Cena was funny.
I actually didn't mind him in this movie as much as I thought I was going to. Like, he was a decent actor. Like, he wasn't
I don't know.
terrible.
I couldn't take anything he did
He wasn't.
seriously.
He
I mean,
didn't do a terrible job, but they, the way they wrote him, like Emerson's saying, is he's like I like some of his jokes when he's like they're called Decepticons. Does anyone not see the problem here?
Yeah, but the military is written as a joke. Like they're supposed to be funny and they're not funny.
well, they're not even really like the military, which is kind of what annoyed me in this movie. Was their Sector 7, which is like that whole organization from Transformers 1, and they're supposed to be a lot more secretive, and it doesn't seem like that at all.
Um, I don't care so much about like I didn't even want to see John Cena's character, so I can't really say that he disappointed me. I didn't care at all. Basically, I don't know what I was supposed to care about in this movie because the film does a weird thing where Charlie uses Bumblebee as some weird surrogate for her father,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they don't have a like father-daughter relationship. He's more like a pet.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that part. I really like the best scene in the movie to me is when she's talking about how she's crying. She's standing next to the car. The last time she ever saw her dad, and that she just wanted to fix the car because she thought he might know somehow, something like that. That to me is the best scene in the movie, the best acting, everything. And then the next best scene in the movie for me would be when Bumblebee fights the blue Decepticon.
Yeah, that was a cool fight.
But other than that, there's not a whole lot. Like I like the part where she dives at the end because they set that up properly. But again, like she's diving for her father, but she's actually diving for Bumblebee, who's not her
And also,
father.
he doesn't breathe air. Like he's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was just confused as to like what she's doing because like he doesn't need her help, and
Yeah.
also like there's a moment there where it's like, oh, wait, is she gonna kiss him? Tell me
Yeah,
they're
it
not
did
doing,
look
like,
it did look weird. Like
There
she
were
was
a
about
lot
to
of
kiss him.
moments like that in this movie where it seemed kind of romantic at times, and it was
And
really
I mean,
weird.
let's be real. They did end the movie very strictly saying there wasn't a but there wasn't a real romance between her and that other guy. So maybe she has the hots for Bumblebee.
Maybe in
I don't
another
know.
version of the script.
You know what this
You know,
movie
that
really
could be.
reminded me of? Have you guys ever seen The Iron Giant?
Yeah.
It's like really similar to that movie in a lot of ways.
Well, that movie's like really well known and
Made.
praised. So are you saying that?
Well, no, I'm saying like specifically between Haley Steinfeld and Bumblebee throughout this movie, like it kind of goes a little similar, right? Like she meets a robot that has no memory and is kind of baby-like almost. They go through the movie.
God, the
they become
amnesia
friends.
subplot.
Yeah, and then at the end, he for
Doesn't
like a
matter.
split second goes nuts and starts trying to kill people, and she calms him down, and then he saves
Oh,
her.
you're right, actually. Yeah, when he went like red eye for a second, I was like,
Like that's exactly what I was saying. Like
That,
that's
that
like very Iron
did you guys
Giant
like that
esque.
scene? Because I felt
no,
like he
because
didn't
I
go
didn't
far
understand.
enough.
No,
He didn't go
Bumblebee
far
doesn't do
enough,
that.
and also like it doesn't make sense. Like that's what triggers him to go red eye. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, because he
Also,
loves
okay,
her. You son
speaking,
of a bitch.
Jesus, the next movie will have a human transformer hybrid. But so basically, Kia, you mentioned the amnesia subplot.
Dude,
What was
he finds Haley Steinfeld like 30 years later. She has a 30-year-old son.
and he
It's a
transforms,
transformer.
but it's like kind of fucked up because he's not full machine and not full human, so like he just lives in pain. But anyways, um, so Kia, you mentioned the amnesia subplot. I also
Yeah.
was like, what is the point of this? Like, I guess the idea was to explain why he's like childlike and like needs to be taught about things, but he seems to like figure things out real quickly when he needs to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you expect that from the plot, but I don't understand how this movie could have been done better, though. Can you guys think of
I'll tell
what
you
was
what they
wrong
could have
with
done
it?
better. Specifically, like going back to what Emerson said, comparing this to the first movie. The first movie had a lot less human and a lot more robot in it. I like that. That's why I came to see this movie was for the robot stuff.
Well, you got a lot of cool action stuff.
Yeah,
No, Everett's
I
right.
was gonna bring that up. That's what I was excited for going into this movie because I said that earlier with you guys that when I saw this trailer, they had the original looking Transformers on Cybertron, and that's the kind of movie I wanted to see. And when I sat down and the movie started, I was really hyped up because it jumps right into the war on Cybertron, and then it's only there for around like maybe 3 minutes, and then they cut back to it later in the movie, and then you never see it again.
Well,
It's,
it's really
it's
expensive.
that it is expensive, but you know what? I agree. I still think the weakest part is the people. And the reason the first Transformers movie got away with it is because a lot of the people was the military, and the military are somewhat interesting. I was interested in the war on Cybertron stuff because when they were on Cybertron, I recognized a lot of the robots, but I didn't know their names necessarily. And I was like, cool. And we got some lore. Like, I really like how the Decepticons were claiming, oh, these people are terrorists. They're a rebel group. Like, they're fleeing from us.
So I
Like,
have some questions about that because I did like seeing the hierarchy and the war, the revolt, all that. So
Say that again. You cut out.
I did like seeing all of the war and the hierarchy of the soldiers. So are Autobots the good guys?
Well, technically, the way it normally works, at least traditionally, is the Autobots and the Decepticons were like working together. Megatron was the leader of the military, and Optimus Prime was like their lead scientist, and
Oh yeah.
they wanted to figure out how to use the Allspark, like how to use it, and over time, Megatron and his Decepticons wanted to like basically go to war with other species and be more militant, while Optimus Prime and the Autobots wanted to be a little bit more peaceful and wanted to be more scientific and use it for like better things. And then a war exploded, and then they sent the Allspark off planet to try to protect it. And then the Autobots escaped Cybertron as it was destroyed, and the Decepticons basically won the war essentially. And that's why they head to Earth because that's like their safe haven. But I was surprised, like, because there's like a lot of Autobots and Decepticons that I recognized in this movie, but they did keep one thing true, is that Megatron's not in the movie because he left to like go to Earth like later, like earlier in time, because they said that in the first movie. However, traditionally, the Decepticon that rips out Bumblebee's vocal cords is called Blitzwing. It is not him that does it originally. It's Megatron that does that. Like he injures Bumblebee and causes that whole shenanigan.
Okay, so weren't the red and blue Decepticons that chase Bumblebee down for
Shatter and Dropkick.
Okay.
They have the weirdest fucking names.
Okay.
But
Were they not Autobots?
no, those are Decepticons.
But they were cars.
Yeah. What's your
yeah,
point?
Decepticons can be cars. It doesn't matter what
Yeah,
you
that's my
transform
point.
into.
As I'm asking,
Well, okay.
they're
so
cars. They're saying
Autobots
Autobots
can
are
only
the
be
rebellion.
Autobots can only be land vehicles traditionally. There's like this really weird explanation for it. I think it's more along the lines of that. It's like not easier, but like it's like a Decepticon thing to be a flying vehicle. That's why you only see them as the flying vehicles, and you only see Autobots do it occasionally.
Yeah, but
Like,
these were not flying vehicles.
yeah, they were. They were helicopters and a jump jet.
Weren't they Mustangs or
Well, they were
something?
they're triple changers. It means they can transform into two different vehicles at once.
All right. I mean, why don't you start with that?
Okay.
um, okay, so the Autobots are they're so weird. What powers them?
Energon sparks.
And so do they eat?
No, not really.
No.
They,
Are
like,
they
absorb
as
energy.
durable as regular cars?
No,
They're
they're
more durable.
I mean, if you want to follow the movie lore, they're made from a specific type of metal that's very
Self-repairing.
it's very vulnerable to heat, but it's a lot more durable than normal metal.
Okay. And so when they kill a machine, is it dead for good?
Yeah.
Unless the Allspark brings it back to life.
Well, yeah, unless the Allspark brings it back to life, or like they did in one of the other movies, if you save the brain and transmute the consciousness into something else, yes, the
Fucking-
robot is dead.
What was that? That was
forever.
like Galvatron or whatever?
Yeah, they brought Megatron's dumbass brain into Galvatron, and that was dumb.
Okay. All right. I mean, did you guys not find the dad funny? They didn't grow on you at some point?
I mean, he was funny to me at times, but as I said, like I just got bored. I was like, I'm not here to watch like this dynamic. And the thing is, like, it'd be funny, but then it would wear on me, and I was like, can we get back to seeing what the Decepticons are doing? Like, I want to know when the fight's gonna happen.
I did like the family stuff more than the Decepticon stuff.
My.
Especially when they were like plugged into the satellites and like it just seems so like tropey.
No, well, see, here's the thing. Tropey or not, what I came to see is I want to see robots fight each other. That's what I want to see in a Transformers
Well,
movie. Okay?
they gave it to you at the end, right?
Yes,
Not
at the end.
enough
But what
as
I'm
it
saying
should have
is,
been.
a lot of the middle of the movie was, and I could see how it's boring when the Decepticons are being tropey, but a lot of the middle of the movie was just the Decepticons are looking for him. The Decepticons are looking for him. Like, I would
Yeah.
rather, and that's another thing that I liked about seeing the original Transformers movie is because they had battles throughout. That attack on the airbase at the start, the fight in the small town in Qatar where they have to call in air support, like they have fighting throughout.
That was the original?
entire movie. Yeah,
Yeah, they were facing
The original
death
went to
scorpion
Qatar.
arc.
yeah. That's where it starts.
I'm gonna have to watch
They're
it.
they're in the U.S. airbase and it gets attacked.
So what you're saying is you wish Michael Bay would have done this movie.
Yes.
No, no.
I wish
no,
I wish
not necessarily.
2006 Michael Bay would have done this movie.
It would have been like 3 hours long. You know that.
I mean, if it was like the first Transformers, I would have enjoyed it. And remember who you're talking to. The last two made me want to shoot myself, Kia. I wanted to die. Okay? But the first one was really good. I liked it.
Like, I mean, this movie almost got it right. Like, almost. They had some really good scenes, like where they execute Cliffjumper. That made me cringe in a good way, because that was brutal. But on the other hand, like when you compare this to the first movie, like exactly what Emerson's saying, it had large scale battles. It had a little bit more stake to it because they're trying to save like the source of their species, until they retconned it later. But like they had a lot more like robots, like, and there were a lot more deaths in it too. Like there was like one Autobot death in this movie, and the rest of them were Decepticons. Like, Bumblebee's not gonna die or get really injured.
And we see like the idea in the first Transformers movie that the Decepticons have been on Earth for a while and they're infiltrating for a while. Like
Yeah.
Starscream is in the military. Oh, all the Autobots actually, or all the Decepticons actually are infiltrated into the military and police in one way or another. And I like that. I think it's cool. Now, I realize that this movie was smaller stake because we literally had 3 robots on Earth. I guess 4 if you count the Blitzwing or whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it's just like I didn't enjoy it enough as a Transformers movie.
I could see that. It's a fair criticism, but I think a lot of people associate Transformers movies with the kid in the car, like
And I
that
think you
feeling.
can go away from that. We've talked about this before. That what would we see in a Transformers movie that was all Transformers? Fuck the humans.
I think that
Well,
would
I
be a bad
mean,
movie.
I disagree actually, because I think a movie where they do what they did in the comics and the TV shows and stuff, where they show like the actual real war of Cybertron and not just like robots like killing each other over and over again. I feel like that
That
could
is
be a
the
good
war,
movie.
though.
Yeah, but like there's actual structure to it. Like it starts off like there's rebellions and there's like smaller wars and there's like political struggles and then like it goes into full scale like death like brutal war. Like I feel like if you could make a movie like that right, it would look really cool. And it would be a good movie. It'd be a good war movie.
Would
And
it
let's
make
just
enough money to justify the extreme price tag of the CGI?
I mean, you say I know CGI is expensive to produce well, but let's face it, these movies have made so much money that I'm pretty sure they could pull it off.
Is this one making a lot of money?
Even if it doesn't, the last like 6 movies they've made have made millions of dollars. They
And
could
speaking
definitely
on
do it if
that
they wanted.
regard, let's remember that in the last before this movie, in the main series, the last 3 or 4 movies, their weaknesses were always the humans. That was the stuff that makes you cringy.
I disagree. I think it was all bad.
No, because it's
The
difficult to be
racist
like.
robots?
I mean,
Yeah, that's a low point, but that doesn't
but
necessarily
as
make
I
it
was saying
horrible.
before, okay, but it's difficult to say it's bad. Like, oh, I really hated when the robots fought. Like, no one's gonna criticize the fighting between the Transformers.
I guess
what
I
you're
remember
coming to
not
see.
being too impressed with it.
No, it wasn't great. But the thing is that the weakest points were the people. When I think of like, God, what the fuck? The last night and the fourth one are blending together. But when I
Age
think
of
of
Extinction.
yeah, when and I think was there another one after that? Were there 3? I don't. Anyways,
It was Transformers 1, Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen, Transformers 3, Dark of the Moon. 4 was Age of Extinction, and then 5 was Dark Knight. Not Dark Knight. Last Night.
the Dark
Damn it.
Knight. But
I don't know,
okay,
these are
in the
weird.
last 2, you know what I remember? I remember that Hannibal Lecter guy. He's a great actor usually, and he was just crap.
You don't know Anthony Hopkins' name?
I'm blanking on it right now. Oh, did he find that? But anyways, Anthony Hopkins, right? He was just crap the whole movie. And I remember, Kia, because you said, why would a great actor like this do this? He's just phoning it in. Like,
Right.
and they had
I mean,
that
he did it in
stupid,
Ragnarok too.
they had that stupid Cogman who was like supposed to be funny. I was like, what is this? And then in Age of Extinction or whatever, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm remembering more points of how the robots suck too. Remember that stupid like female priestess that like
Yeah.
did something and how Earth was actually a giant transformer?
Quintessa.
Remember that?
And,
That was the reveal.
oh,
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah.
It's
Like
terrible.
honestly, if you look through it, this is probably one of the most inconsistent series of all time. The first one is really good because it sets
X-Men
up this.
has a bone to
Yeah,
pick with you.
X-Men's up there too, but well, think about it. The first one's good because it sets up the story and it has a good storyline. Megatron crash lands like early on with the Allspark, and that's just where it starts. Then you figure out in the second movie that they were really there since like prehistoric times. Then they were on the moon. Then they changed the whole origin story and they retconned the first 3 movies. And then the fourth one, it's all different. Like, it just keeps jumping back and forth and back and forth, and it's really hard to keep the consistency like in anywhere that's like intelligible. And it's really annoying to watch these movies when you see that.
Okay.
Like, it was really confusing watching this movie because I was trying to figure out whether or not they were going for a traditional prequel or a reboot.
I think
'Cause,
he is right. I think it's a reboot. It's a soft reboot. And the reason
it
I
seems
think
like a
that
soft reboot
is because exactly what Kia said, where you needed no foreknowledge at all.
Now, I
Right.
could have used a little more context as to what the hell they were and all that. Because I don't know the Transformers that well anymore.
I mean, let's face it, they like, and I know I argued with you about this once, but I agree with you where they're literally just to sell toys, and they like added the story later on.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we had the
But
argument over the great and full lore of the Transformers.
uh-huh. But like all to all, that's pretty much what this is. They're just trying to like pander to kids at this point. But I like that they have a story out there but I don't like that they're not using it to the full effect.
Yeah, maybe the next one will be.
Oh
They'll be
god.
like, people didn't. I mean, I hear a lot of this movie, like from Transformer fans, about how great it is, how they understand what Transformers mean to people and all that. She kind of, Charlie reminded me of like a Pokemon trainer, and Bumblebee was the Pokemon. Like, imagine a movie where the Pokemon like sort of like falls in your backyard or something, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna take care of it. Then it ruins your house. Then like someone's after this Pokemon because it's rare. So then there's like all this chaos the Pokemon can fight. You get captured, the Pokemon rescues you, then you have to rescue the Pokemon, and that's the story basically.
The two Decepticons trying to kill Bumblebee or Team Rocket.
Yeah. No, I mean it's the same. To me, it was the same thing. Bumblebee was her pet. That's why I don't understand why they tried to make it like her father reincarnated or something. Um, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, so the end. So he just leaves.
Yeah.
He has to leave. Otherwise, like, where are they gonna go?
I don't know, but I find it really unbelievable that the girl would just let him go, like, and not go
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah.
Like, fuck college, fuck working at the hot dog stand. I'm riding with the Transformer.
Except then you have the problem where it's gonna be like last night, where Mark Wahlberg had that exact character development where he was like, "Fuck everything, I'm going with the Transformer," and that was horrible.
Well, they had some excuse for it, but it didn't hold up very well. It was that he had to protect his daughter so she could have a normal life, but no one cared because the movie was ass.
Yeah. Okay, are we done here?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's. Actually, did you guys hear the rumor that the next one is going to be rated R?
I did not hear that. What's it
There's,
about?
I read somewhere that they're thinking about making one of the Bumblebee movies rated R for some reason.
That's how they're gonna have the human robot relationship.
Another Bumblebee movie?
Yeah, because they're planning if you like look at their plans for future installments for this series, they have a ton of Transformers movies on the docks. But for Bumblebee specifically, they were planning on making this one, and then one of the things on the idea board was they were going to make a rated R Bumblebee movie, which I don't know how they would accomplish that at all. But
I do not want to see another Bumblebee movie at all.
I'll
I
tell you
mean-
how they'd accomplish it, Everett. They're gonna take the human robot relationship to the next level.
okay, God, I don't
It's gonna
wanna
be like
think about
Call Me
that.
by Your Name, but with robots.
Oh my God, I don't want to think about that.
Okay,
Wow.
so Emerson, what's your fight of the week?
All right, so my fight of the week here, you're Charlie, and you're training Bumblebee when he has amnesia.
Oh God. Okay.
Now you can train him however you want. You don't
Alright.
have to necessarily train him to hide, but you're in charge of like getting him ready for the big fight.
I mean, okay, so the interesting thing about Bumblebee was that he actually had his own fighting style. He did a lot of judo throws. I'm not sure what decision that was to give him judo, but it was interesting because if you notice, he did the same move a couple times, like that hip throw, the shoulder throw.
You have to remember that Bumblebee is one of the smallest Transformers because he's a scout. He's like way smaller than every other Transformer.
Yeah, I know. So he had a clear fighting style already built in somehow. Um, I would be like, did he have swords?
He had a knife, but it was taken from him, and he got stabbed with it.
Okay, never mind then.
That sounds so funny. He had a knife, but it was taken from him, and he got stabbed with it.
So don't give him any weapons. Um, honestly, I mean, if I do, I understand what the Decepticons are and what they can
Yes,
do.
you do. Like you have knowledge. I'm gonna give you foreknowledge in this. Like your objective is to train him to fight them.
Yikes. Well, for sure, you got to take them one at a time. Um, you take the blue one first because the red one appears to be stronger. Um, he blew him up with chains.
He like wrapped him in the chain and then pulled on it, which I guess like caused an explosion.
But wouldn't the chains just break?
Yeah, that was an inconsistency.
Okay, so if they're that weak, then couldn't he just shoot him?
Yeah, one shot should have the same effect.
Couldn't I just shoot him? I think that might be Bumblebee. Be my bodyguard. They're like fighting, and I'll just be like right behind them, blasting them with an M60 or something.
Yeah, and they're just getting ripped to shreds.
Yeah, they can't figure out where the shooting's coming from. I'm like right beneath them.
I mean, remember the other movies? They were using like heat-seeking tracer rounds and stuff to like take out their.
They were
faces.
using Sabo. That's grenade launcher.
Well, no, that's like in the first movie. I meant like in the third movie, they were using like sniper rifles and rocket launchers to take out their eyes and stuff, and like
Oh yeah, you're right.
breaching
That was
charges
kinda
to
cool,
blow up
too.
their legs.
That's interesting. This is okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Breaching charges. Yeah, I mean, we would have to set an ambush, wouldn't we? That'd be the only way.
Probably.
Like some sort of explosive ambush. Have Bumblebee lead him in like bait, and then we blow it up like Saving Private Ryan.
And we kill all three of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure in the movie Bumblebee would make it.
No, he needs to die too. He's a fucking invader.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's move on.
Alright.
So I saw They Shall Not Grow Old.
Alright.
That's the
Was it
Peter
good?
Jackson restored World War One footage. So the thing about it is they don't have footage of them trench fighting. Obviously, you do see footage of them like charging though, getting up out of the trenches and running. Basically, it's narrated in an interesting way. He focuses. So the question is World War One. Make a movie about World War One using the footage. He goes, okay, well that could be anything. And Peter Jackson actually starts the movie sort of explaining this, like how the movie sort of came together. So he decides that he's going to focus in on one aspect of the war, the British soldiers. And then from there, he decided to focus on just their day to day. So it's basically like a group of soldiers. It's not the same group, by the way, but it's a group of soldiers who they go through the day-to-day stuff of the war. So it's like, hey, how they got recruited, what their training was like, what their initial battle reactions were, what the real fighting was, and then when they came home. Basically, that's it. Now, they actually have a bunch of interview footage from real World War One vets. So this is played over the footage of the soldiers. And like they'll be describing things, like one guy will be describing his uniform, and so you see soldiers lined up with their uniforms and all the kits and stuff hanging off of them. It's not the same guy though. But you figure that out pretty early. The interesting thing is that he goes for most of the movie not most of it. I would say like the first 10-15 minutes are still black and white. And you're watching it in 3D, which is pretty cool the way that they did it. Like they make the film reel sort of pan out. But it's black and white. And I will say that in terms of like the greatest movie moments for me, the moment it turns to color is like astounding. There's this one guy who keeps looking at the camera, and they gave him blue eyes. I don't know if his eyes are really blue, but they're basically walking around some dead bodies, and it's an interesting thing because many of them have seen movies but have never seen a movie camera. So a lot of the footage is them like not knowing what to do. Like they pose for the camera like it's a picture. So they freeze, and then the cameraman has to tell them like move around normal, and then they're like, oh, and then they go normal again. Or they're all trying to like act natural, but they just can't stop looking at the camera. So this guy turns to color, and like he's like a little young scrawny kid, and I don't know, he has like piercing eyes, and he was bandaged up a bit, and just kept looking at it, and I'm like, holy shit! Like it totally made it real. I'm looking at these guys' faces in a completely different way. They look like they could be any one of us. So that was really cool. And then at the end, after the credits, there's about a 30-minute documentary on how they restored the footage itself, and that was pretty cool too. They did. So they took the footage, and most of the reason the footage was bad was because it's been duplicated so many times, and it has actual scratches on it, and it might not be aligned. So they fixed all that. It's a steady roll of film. It doesn't have scratches. It doesn't have like weird jitteriness. Then they added the color. He said that the hardest thing to color was the grass because of all the varying degrees of green. The uniforms were also not super interesting because they were gray and brown. So that was like bland. But ultimately, like when the finished product, like it's so good. Now he did say that he had footage of like the Asians and the Americans and stuff like that. And I wish I would have got to see a little bit more of that because I wanted to see the other people's faces back then.
Right.
We stick with mostly British people. And so, yeah, I'd recommend it. I think it's better to be viewed in 3D, but I guess it's getting a wide release, right?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
getting a larger release.
Yeah, so I would go see it in the theater if you can.
I'm absolutely gonna see it.
All right, yeah, that sounds interesting.
So I saw The Favorite. Jade wanted to see it. This is with Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz. And the lady, I forget her name, Olivia something. She's going to play the queen in the next season of The Crown, which I'm really excited for. And so she's the queen here, but I think it's Queen Victoria, I want to say.
She looks like Queen Victoria from the trailers. Like the way her face looks like Queen
Yeah.
Victoria.
So this movie's actually pretty funny. So Rachel Weisz plays like the right hand of the queen, and she's in her ear, and she's kind of like bold, telling her like she looks stupid. Like she'll tell her the truth, and then they have this unique relationship that has a bit of a twist to it. And then Emma Stone is Rachel Weisz's cousin who comes. She used to be a lady, and now like her father died or lost her in a card game or something, so she's kind of like a whore, but she escaped. Now she's here like scrubbing the floors or something, and she sort of works her way to the queen a bit, and then takes over Rachel Weisz's position as like the favorite, not necessarily as the right hand, but just as the pet, like the plaything. So it's like a back and forth thing. The movie was actually pretty good and unusually funny. I didn't expect it. And Nicholas Hoult is in it, the guy who played Beast in the new X-Men movies. And yeah, there's a lot of unexpected humor. Emma Stone is great. They're all honestly great. They hurt each other. Like the game gets crazy. In the third act, though, it does drag a bit. Like I was waiting for the end. It needed to end, and it took its sweet time. So it did have a good ending. It wasn't really a movie we came out and like. There's some things to be inferred about the ending, but it's not like I was surprised we only spoke about like two things about it, and then we just moved on. So I would if you're into that sort of style, it's not like a cold drama the way that those movies tend to be, that Victorian era stuff. It's funny, not funny like a Marvel movie, but funny like situational comedy. There's like a lot of sexual humor. So yeah. Now the next one is Bird Box. I have not seen it. Have either of you?
Nope.
No, but I've read the book.
Bird Box on Netflix is like hugely popular right now with Sandra Bullock. What is it about, Emerson?
So the book is set in 3 distinct time periods, but the general idea is that there's these reports of killings, and slowly you come to find out that there's these creatures that if you see them, you die.
Okay.
They like drive you insane, and so basically the only way you can get around is you have to cover your eyes because they don't do anything to you, but by seeing them you die. So basically the main character and her daughters are trying to get to a safe zone in the book, and the thing is like there's things around, but they have to keep their eyes covered at all times.
How does
And,
a
like,
book show them not seeing things?
because the book like describes like it's essentially just like they're walking through, like you hear this, you hear that, like they feel this. It's an okay book. It's not amazing, but I mean, I have no idea how the movie is going to do it because the book is spread out. Like the first half of the book is like, not first half, the first like quarter is like they just are hearing about weird stuff happening in like Russia, and like strange things are going on and no one's quite sure.
Is
And
this an
then
apocalyptic setting?
not at first, and then it becomes apocalyptic because the world ends because of these creatures, and then like there's a bunch of stuff about like people who are insane, like psychopaths. They might be able to see the creatures without dying. So like there's pictures, and like there's like an argument like that they may be biblical, they may not be biblical, and then like the third act of the book is them at the safe zone. So like the book itself covers like 70 years. So that's why I don't understand how the movie is going to do it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
The next one is Black Mirror put out an interactive episode,
Bandersnatch.
a choose your own adventure,
Yeah, I
which
heard
sounds pretty
about
cool.
that.
So I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, Cameron watched that.
Did he like it?
What did he say? Was it
He
good?
said, without spoiling anything, because he didn't really spoil anything to me, because you know how Cameron talks. Information is difficult to receive. If you're listening to this, Cameron, sorry. Basically, it's choose your own adventure, but sometimes it'll be like you chose wrong, and like send you back.
Yeah, some of them are like that though.
So,
That's cool. Okay. No trailers this week.
oh, what about Us?
What is that?
That's Jordan Peele's next movie.
Oh, okay. What is that?
So I saw the trailer for it. It's got several actors from Black Panther. Who was the white ape?
M'Baku,
Yeah, it's got M'Baku
Lupita Nyong'o.
and Chadwick Boseman's love interest. They're both in it, and basically it's a family that goes on vacation. And they arrive at this little beach town. Everything's fine, and then weird stuff starts happening, and from what the trailer shows, it looks like they are being replaced by copies of themselves. Like everyone in the town is being replaced by copies of themselves that are trying to kill them. And it looks interesting. You know, you very much get some God, I'm blanking on the name right now. What was the other movie with
Get Out?
Yeah, it very much has Get Out like tones, but more shifted towards something supernatural, I think. Or maybe not. I don't know, because the first one had like science gone wrong basically. But I highly recommend you guys check out the trailer because it looks good.
Okay. Ever, do you want to talk about Vice?
Yeah. Did you see it?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Well, I guess without going into spoilers, you already know what happens with Cheney in the real life, but this movie is a lot different than I expected when I first walked in to see it. So, well, I shouldn't say walked in. I watched it as a screener, but
Okay.
it's an odd movie. Like, I'll put it to you this way: it's definitely not anything like you're picturing when you're thinking of a movie like this. Like,
I'm just picturing Christian Bale as a fat guy.
yeah, that's only one part of it. Like, the structure is really different. There's like commentary going on the whole time. It's really weird. Like, I can't even.
So
really
it jumps
explain
around in
properly.
time.
Well, no, not even. It doesn't really jump around in time either. It's just.
Okay, you know whatever. Let's just stop the description here. Okay, and let me just say that I was gonna skip over it because Emerson and I had not seen it yet. You texted me about what about Vice. I said, do you wanna talk about it? We didn't see it. You said you didn't respond. Then you just sat there quietly. Then I brought it up. Then you like are telling us non-information, like the anti-description.
Okay, do you want me to go into more detail then?
No, I don't know what you want to tell us. Is it good or not?
Yeah, it's really good. It's just odd.
Oh my god.
Like, I encourage you to see it. It was a really good movie. But
I just want to get through 1 week where we don't look like fucking amateurs. Is that too much to ask?
Okay, you know what? Fine. Go see the movie. It's good. End of story.
Okay. In the news, in the news section, remember that they talked about that weird movie, The Black Knight,
Vaguely.
where I got the director mixed up. It's Guy Ritchie.
Can you
What was the Black Knight again?
Okay, I'm going to just read this from comicbookmovie.com. Back in September, it was revealed that Marvel might be thinking about making an all-new team-up movie uniting Captain Britain and the Stan Lee and Dick Ayers created Black Knight. Remember they had like weird weapons?
Oh yeah,
In
yeah.
a flick
I like
directed by
that.
Guy Ritchie. While the rumored movie's production was apparently set to start in November, Ain't It Cool News reports it may not be completely false. So this coming November. According to MCU Cosmic founder Jeremy Conrad, Marvel Studios is actually thinking about bringing Dana Whitman to the big screen at some point in the future. Oh, Dane Whitman. Conrad even claims that Marvel already knows how to introduce this generally unique superhero, and the key word is the quantum realm.
God damn it.
Although Marvel Studios' Kevin Feige did emphasize the quantum realm's importance on numerous occasions, it truly might be the key to the MCU going forward, as it was introduced in 2015's Ant-Man and shown in its full glory in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Conrad also pinned a photo of the mysterious city hidden in the microverse, suggesting it was much more than just a simple Easter egg in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I spotted
So
that shit.
Sick of the goddamn quantum.
It's
realm.
unclear if Marvel is still developing that rumored Captain Britain and the Black Knight film, but it looks like fans of this old school hero wielding the powerful ebony blade can look forward to the future. Still, you should keep in mind that it's just a rumor, and nothing has been officially confirmed regarding the appearance of the Black Knight and Captain Britain in the MCU. So, yeah.
Nonsense. Utter nonsense.
Yeah.
So his tweet is of the picture of the small city, Jeremy Conrad, and he says, "There's been some hinting and talk about Black Knight recently. Apparently Marvel does have a plan for him in the MCU, and they already know how he'll be introduced." So, ta-da.
Joy.
There's not much news. Moving on to gaming. So I recently 100%ed all the DLC in the Spider-Man PS4 game, and I didn't realize that aside from the Raimi suit that's in there, once you 100% it, you get to unlock the Into the Spider-Verse suit, Spider-Man. Not Miles Morales, but the Peter Parker one.
Is it any good?
Is it any good?
It has the cell shading from the movie, like it looks like the movie. My favorite suit in that game is the Raimi suit by far, but another one though that is like probably overlooked, aside from the Homecoming suit and the Iron Spider suit, there's a comic suit. I would go look it up. It looks badass. I almost wish the entire game had this. It's shaded like a comic book, like it's inked in black. And
I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
It
it's,
looks really good.
It's cool. I wish the whole game looked like that. But anyway, that's about it. So we're about to do our awards show. So we're going to wrap this episode up. You guys good?
Yeah.
All good.
All right, and we are off.
Thank you for listening to the Iron Coop Fights Movies. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, review our podcast on iTunes so that we can spread the show around. To contact the show, you can reach us at theironcoob@gmail.com and on Instagram at theironcoob. Join us for another edition of the Iron Coop Fights Movies.